Don't go upstairs. That's what one of the church workers told me the night everything changed. But I barely heard her. The entire building was loud, choir rehearsal downstairs, drums shaking the walls, people running around preparing for Sunday service. And somewhere in that chaos, I got lost. I was searching for the storage room when I noticed a door slightly open at the end of the hallway. Steam drifted out slowly. At first, I thought nothing of it. Until I heard a voice inside. Low. Male. Shaken. Who's there? My heart stopped instantly. Because I knew that voice. Nathaniel. The pastor's son. Before I could answer, the door opened wider by accident. And suddenly, there he was. Half naked. Fresh out of the shower. Water was sliding down his chest while a towel hung dangerously low on his waist. This story is titled, I Walked In on My Pastor's Son, Half Naked. The bathroom door was slightly open. Steam curled into the hallway. And before I could knock, I saw him. My pastor's son. Half naked. Breathless. Frozen the second our eyes met. The towel was hanging dangerously low on his waist. Water dripping down his chest. The Bible was still sitting open on his bed like God himself had witnessed the moment with me. Neither of us moved. Not him. Not me. Then his voice came out low, shaken. You weren't supposed to see this. But the worst part? It wasn't the accident that terrified me. It was the way my heart reacted when I did. Because in that single forbidden moment, inside the holiest house in town, something dangerous awakened between us. And once it started, neither of us could stop it. The silence between us stretched painfully. I should have looked away. I should have apologized and walked out. But my feet refused to move. His chest rose slowly, water still tracing lines down his skin, and for one dangerous second, his eyes searched mine with something deeper than embarrassment. Fear. Not fear of being seen. Fear of what being seen meant. I knocked, I finally whispered. You didn't answer. His jaw tightened. He grabbed the towel harder around his waist, but it was too late. The image had already burned itself into my mind. I stared at him, my heart racing, breathed heavily. Something in me awakened, and he also felt the same way. Just like a flash of light, I found myself close to him and our mouths locked in a kiss. I saw myself on my knees, swallowing everything. The forbidden happened. The pastor's perfect son. Nathaniel. Nathaniel was the kind of attractive that felt dangerous the longer you looked at him. Tall, lean, and broad-shouldered, he carried quiet confidence beneath perfectly fitted church clothes. His deep brown skin glowed warmly under light, contrasting sharply with his defined jawline and soft curls that never stayed completely neat. But his eyes were the real problem, dark, intense, and emotionally heavy, like he was constantly hiding something beneath the surface. Full lips. Calm voice. Subtle muscle beneath smooth skin. He looked holy from a distance. Up close, he looked like temptation pretending to be disciplined. The quiet worship leader everyone admired. The one mothers pointed at during Sunday service. The one who never smiled too long at anybody. Standing in front of me looking suddenly human. Too human. "I think you should leave," he said softly. But his voice lacked conviction. I swallowed hard and turned toward the door. Then he spoke again. "Wait." That single word stopped me cold. When I looked back, he wasn't staring at me with anger anymore. He looked conflicted. Like he had spent years building walls that cracked open in one terrible moment. "You're shaking," I said before thinking. "So are you." And he was right. My hands trembled at my sides. Outside, the church choir rehearsed downstairs. Faint piano notes floated through the house while tension thickened the air between us. Sacred music below. Forbidden silence above. "I don't know what's happening," he admitted quietly. Neither did I. But I knew the room suddenly felt too small. Too hot. Too dangerous. Then his phone buzzed on the bed. "Dad," flashed across the screen. "The pastor." The sound snapped reality back into place. He snatched the phone quickly, declining the call before looking at me with panic in his eyes. "You can't tell anyone what happened." The plea in his voice hit harder than it should have. Because this wasn't just about being caught half naked. It was about the secret hiding underneath his skin. And somehow, I had just become part of it. For the rest of the evening, we avoided each other. At least, we tried to. Church members filled the downstairs hall for youth rehearsal, laughter echoing through the building, while I stayed hidden near the back row, pretending to scroll through my phone. But every time I looked up, I found his eyes on me. Glances. Sharp breaths. Immediate avoidance afterward. Like both of us were trying to erase what happened upstairs. Yet failing miserably. Then the pastor stepped onto the altar. "Tonight," he announced warmly, "my son will lead us in worship." The room erupted in applause. And my stomach dropped. Because his son, the same person I had just seen vulnerable, shaken, exposed, walked calmly toward the microphone like nothing had happened. Perfect posture. Perfect smile. Perfect pastor's son. But I noticed the tiny crack nobody else saw. His hands trembled slightly when he adjusted the mic. Then his gaze found mine again. And suddenly he forgot the first lyrics. The entire church laughed softly, thinking it was harmless nervousness. Only I knew better. Only I knew why his breathing became uneven. His voice sounded fragile beneath the music. He looked at me like I carried something dangerous in my chest. After the rehearsal ended, rain poured heavily outside. People rushed around gathering umbrellas while thunder shook the windows. I waited near the hallway for the storm to calm. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. Him. "You're avoiding me," he said quietly. I let out a dry laugh. You think? The hallway lights flickered once. His expression tightened. I meant what I said earlier, he murmured. Nobody can know. You think I'm going to expose you? No, he hesitated. I'm afraid you'll understand me. The confession landed harder than it should have. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Rain hammered the roof violently above us. Then the power suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed the hallway. A few people screamed downstairs. Instinctively, his hand caught my arm. Warm. Firm. Shaking. And in the pitch-black silence, with thunder roaring outside and the church in chaos below, he didn't let go. The darkness lasted only a few seconds. But for us, it felt endless. His fingers remained wrapped around my arm long after the backup generator kicked in and the hallway lights flickered back to life. Only then did he pull away sharply. Like he'd forgotten himself. Like touching me had been a mistake. People downstairs laughed nervously as the electricity returned, but upstairs, the air between us had changed completely. He looked at me carefully. Not with fear this time. With exhaustion. The kind that comes from hiding too long. My father thinks he knows everything about me, he said quietly. The church thinks they do too. I stayed silent. Because his voice sounded dangerously close to breaking. I've spent my whole life pretending, he continued. Pretending to be who everybody needed. Thunder rumbled again outside. And then you walked into that room. His eyes lifted slowly to mine. And for 1 second, I felt seen. The confession hit harder than I expected. Not because of desire. Because of loneliness. The kind that sits inside someone for years until it starts eating them alive. You don't have to explain yourself to me, I said softly. A bitter smile touched his lips. You're the only person I want to explain myself to. My chest tightened instantly. The hallway suddenly felt too small again. Too honest. Too dangerous. Downstairs, his father's voice echoed through the church, calling his name. He closed his eyes briefly. Reality returning. Duty returning. The mask is returning. I should go, he whispered. But neither of us moved. Then he stepped closer. Close enough for me to see the conflict written all over his face. I don't know what this is, he admitted. And maybe it can never become anything. The words hurt before I even understood why. But, he added carefully, meeting you made me realize I can't keep lying to myself anymore. For the first time that night, the tension between us softened into something quieter. Something sadder. More real. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small folded paper, and pressed it into my hand. An address. No church, he said. No expectations. Just me. Then he walked away. By the time I unfolded the paper completely, he was already downstairs beside his father again. Smiling for the congregation, shaking hands, playing the role everyone expected. But this time, when his eyes briefly found mine across the crowded church hall, I saw the truth behind the performance. And somehow, he knew I would come. Subscribe to this channel for more interesting emotional stories. Adrian thought what he felt for Nathaniel would disappear after that night in the church hallway. It didn't. If anything, it became impossible to escape. Their conversation started quietly, late-night phone calls, stolen moments after rehearsals, lingering eye contact during Sunday services. What began as fear slowly transformed into something neither of them knew how to fight. Nathaniel wasn't just attractive. He was gentle. The kind of gentle that made Adrian feel safe enough to be honest for the first time in his life. And Adrian became the only place Nathaniel stopped pretending. Behind closed doors, away from church expectations and his father's shadow, Nathaniel laughed differently, smiled freely, loved openly. For months, they lived between two worlds. One filled with warmth, intimacy, whispered "I love you"s, trembling kisses, and the terrifying beauty of finally being seen. The other filled with sermons about sin, judgmental stares, and the unbearable pressure of hiding who they truly were. Every Sunday became torture. Nathaniel would stand on the altar singing about freedom while secretly suffocating inside. And Adrian watched the man he loved slowly break apart, trying to satisfy a church that only loved the version of him they created. But forbidden love never stays hidden forever. One night, a church member saw them together. Too close. Too intimate. Too honest. Rumors spread fast. Within days, the church turned hostile. People who once hugged Nathaniel avoided him. Friends disappeared. Messages calling them disgusting flooded their phones. Then came the worst moment of all. The pastor, Nathaniel's own father, stood before the congregation and publicly denounced them. The church fell silent as Nathaniel sat frozen beside Adrian, hearing his own love described like a disease. And when his father demanded he repent, Nathaniel finally stood up. For the first time in his life, his voice didn't shake. "I spent years begging God to change me," he said quietly. "But all he ever did was teach me how to love honestly." The room exploded in outrage. By the end of that night, both of them were excommunicated from the church. Thrown out. Rejected. Disowned by people who once called themselves family. And for a while, the pain nearly destroyed them. Nathaniel cried for weeks. Not because he regretted loving Adrian, but because losing his father felt like mourning someone still alive. But Adrian stayed. Through every panic attack. Every sleepless night. Every moment Nathaniel wanted to disappear. And slowly, love rebuilt what shame tried to ruin. Years later, they opened a small ministry together. Not built on fear. Not built on condemnation. But on honesty, healing, and grace. A place where people rejected by churches could finally breathe without hiding. People traveled from everywhere to hear Nathaniel preach, not as the pastor's perfect son anymore, but as a man who survived silence and chose truth instead. And every time Adrian watched him speak, he remembered the terrified boy standing half-naked behind that bathroom door years ago. The boy who whispered, "You weren't supposed to see this." But maybe Adrian was. Because sometimes the most forbidden love stories become the ones that save people the most. Subscribe to this channel for more interesting emotional stories.